Kanye West, over the past 5 years, has become one of the most controversial figures in the world, making comments about specific groups, destroying his relationships with his family, aligning himself with very questionable people, and losing the friends that we thought he'd be with forever. A lot of Ye's former fans hate and condemn him for his actions, but recently, Ye's been taking steps in redeeming himself. This is the redemption of Kanye West. But to fully understand why Ye has to redeem himself, we first have to go all the way back to the VMAs. Taylor Swift just won the award for having the best female video. But there was a problem. It was going against what Ye thought was one of the best videos of all time.
The best videos of all time!
I was really excited because Kanye West was on the stage. Then I wasn't so excited anymore.
The young lady seems like a perfectly nice person. She's getting her award. He's a jackass.
It was rude, period. And you know, I'd like to be able to apologize to her in person.
Let me ask something. I was fortunate enough to meet your mom and talk with your mom a number of years ago. What do you think she would have said about this?
And after this, Ye would go into exile, fearing that his career was over because of what he did and everything else that was dawning on him. Ye's mother, Donda West, passed away just 2 years prior, and it seemed like the whole world was falling. Advised by Mos Def, Ye would go out of the country for months at a time, moving to Japan and Italy, even quitting music when he was out. When he was in these countries, all he wanted to do was explore different forms of art. One thing in particular that interested him was fashion, but there was this bug in Ye, calling on him to make music. That's what Ye knew, and he was the guy who made Graduation, so this drove Ye to get a couple of amazingly talented people and moved to Hawaii, locking himself in a studio while recording one of the greatest pieces of art in history.
Can we get much higher? So high.
Going down as a century-defining album. When My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy released, fans immediately switched up. It was Ye's redemption album, pushing so many boundaries in so many forms, from its music videos to the beat production, shaping a whole generation in the 2010s to be as creative as him. During this era, he was back. Everyone loved Ye, with him doing a tour where fans would look at him like he was Michael Jackson. Fast forward to 2015, he was entering the fashion industry, debuting Yeezy Season 1 with Adidas. It was also in 2015 that a non-political figure who became political started gaining traction, Donald J. Trump. And Ye, he was paying close attention. And in 2016, Ye dropped another album that defined the decade. And on that stage was Travis Scott, Kid Cudi, Virgil Abloh, and Pusha T, with the album exploring themes of Christianity, with the intro song being a gospel song. That listening party, Ye spoke about freedom of expression, art with no boundaries, and a life with no censorship. But even then, there was a darker energy brewing. Remember when Ye apologized to Taylor Swift all the way back in 2009? Well, he was about to take that back, debuting the song Famous, which led to the St. Pablo tour, Ye on top of the world, selling out shows all throughout the globe. But in October, something insane would happen to Ye's family. When he was in Paris, Kim Kardashian West would be held against her will by people dressed as police officers in her Paris hotel room, locking her in the hotel bathroom while taking 2 cell phones and $10 million worth of jewelry without her consent. Ye was in the middle of his show performing Heartless when he had to stop it due to a family emergency. This took a toll on Ye's mental health, but Ye pushed through with performing until he couldn't anymore. Sacramento, California. Ye was 3 songs in and would stop the performance because he had something to say.
Oh yeah, I'm on my Trump shit tonight. Radio, fuck you. Radio, lied to you. Hey, to play that bullshit. I'm not scared. I'm here to change things.
And change things he did. Ye canceled the entire St. Pablo tour. 20 shows gone, just like that, with reports saying that Ye was hospitalized because he was exhausted. But fans knew that it was deeper than that. Years of pressure, controversy, creative battles, family problems, and the weight of being Kanye West finally broke through. Ye was hospitalized and was soon diagnosed with bipolar disorder. At that moment, Ye disappeared. It was the calm before the biggest storm of his career. Though Ye wasn't gone for too long. He came back a few weeks later with an entirely new hairstyle. And guess where he was going next? The Trump Towers in New York to see the then president-elect Donald J. Trump. Ye's fans didn't know it yet, but this was going to be a bigger rabbit hole into what was going to be Ye's most controversial era. Ye would be criticized for wearing a MAGA hat, and that he was an open Trump supporter. Even getting on a TMZ office interview with him talking about how much he loved the president. And he said something insane, and that thing was a choice. With that statement shaking the entire world. Fans were embarrassed to be Kanye fans, and the African American community openly denounced Ye for that statement.
That's not choice, that's by force.
And Ye wasn't stopping, sadly. Facing the worst backlash of his entire career, Ye once again went into exile. And within Wyoming, he assembled the Dream Team, with Travis Scott, Kid Cudi, Nas, Pusha T, and Mike Dean, going on what fans call the Wyoming Run. Daytona, Kid C Ghost, Nasir, fully produced by Ye, KTSE, and finally, Ye. Amidst the entire world turning against him, he still proved that he was one of the greatest producers to ever touch a digital audio workstation. And within the Wyoming Run, Ye self-titled would drop with the cover of the Wyoming mountains as the backdrop, and with scribbled green handwriting. I hate being bipolar, it's awesome. A lead up to what was going to be one of Ye's biggest shots at redemption, following the path of the Redeemer. But Ye would wear a hat once again to one of the biggest comedy shows in the world, making a bunch of statements, once again endorsing the president.
They bullied me backstage.
In late 2018, Ye was supposed to drop another experimental album, Yandi, set to release on the 29th of September, sequel to one of the most experimental albums of all time, in Yeezus. But Ye didn't drop the album, mainly because Ye had a Mexican standoff in Uganda. I know it sounds like a joke, but it's a true story. There's actually a Reddit theory wherein Ye turned to Jesus again because of this traumatic event, leading Ye to create this thing called Sunday Service, starting in January 2019, with Ye having celebrities come and follow the word of Jesus. Ye's songs from his various albums would then be Christianized, which led Ye to start the rollout of one of his most redemption-filled albums ever, Jesus is King. Jesus is King was accompanied by several Sunday services, with one being in Coachella and another one being open to the public. Ye would then go on a religious tour, having a conversation with the pastor, Joel Osteen.
God's been calling me for a long time, and the devil's been distracting me for a long time.
And Jesus is King was just an album that fully followed themes of forgiveness and love. Songs like God Is had Ye crying his heart out to Jesus, encouraging all of us to follow God. But after Jesus is King, Ye started taking a different direction. It wasn't about God anymore. It was about the United States of America, as Ye was running for president of the United States.
America. What is America's destiny? What is best for our nation, our people?
Holding his first rally in North Charleston, South Carolina, wearing a bulletproof vest with a big security symbol written in the middle of it, talking about multiple things that range from the control of firearms to support for mothers, and finally, the statement that moved Ye into tears.
My mom saved my life. My dad wanted to.
After the rally, Ye would go into a meltdown, going into various chaotic tweets. Ye claimed that Kim tried to lock him up and that Kris Jenner didn't even want to talk to him. Moreover, he said that he'd been trying to divorce Kim since 2018. This then led Kim to issue a public statement saying that Ye had bipolar disorder and that the family's really been trying to help and that we need to show compassion to Ye. Ye also started straying away from his Christian identity, working with Playboi Carti on Whole Lotta Red as its executive producer. And Whole Lotta Red's imagery is the exact opposite of Jesus is King. And then 2021 happened. Kim Kardashian filed for divorce in February, and Ye was slowly losing his mind, but he stayed grounded and would then start working on a love letter to his mother, Donda, going back to his Christian identity in August. With the album containing absolutely zero cuss words, the song Donda Chant paying homage to his mother, Donda being said 60 times. Donda as an album acted as some sort of redemption from both his actions in the prior year and showing his growth as a person. The album contains several listening parties with Ye ascending in one of them, and his childhood Chicago home being the main centerpiece in the Chicago listening party. And something else happened in that show, with Kim Kardashian West walking out to No Child Left Behind, wearing a Balenciaga wedding gown, and them reuniting once more. It seemed like it was too good to be true, and unfortunately, it was. It all came crumbling down as Kim moved on, and she started dating somebody
Petey, go fuck yourself! Jesus!
even kissing him in the set of Saturday Night Live. Ye was visibly infuriated and spiraled even more. But even then, Ye continued to perform and make music, doing a show with Drake in LA for the free Larry Hoover concert, performing Runaway.
I need you to run right back to me, baby.
But Ye would move on to dating the actress Julia Fox, who he'd then break up with just a few months later. And he'd post the infamous Civil War photos, going against people who he used to love. He would also go on a big rant against the religious and cultural community affected with deep historical trauma, which led him to lose millions in sponsorships. And this would have so many people within the community turn against him. The rest of 2022 would continue to be an insane year for Ye, a year that would go down in infamy. Ye was rolling out his album Donna 2, an album that ended up containing swear words, and would exclusively release the album on this template to stay away from the systems that he thought were controlling him and the industry. And then he made a few tweets that would land Ye into massive scrutiny, since they were not very nice to groups of people. And even his podcast with LeBron would get canceled, since there were a lot of things that he said that were bad. In response to the tweets that Ye made, Gap, Vogue, UMG, CAA, Balenciaga all terminated their collaborations with them. Ye was also no longer a billionaire, with his net worth being reduced to a measly $400 million. And then the interview happened. Ye, in a Vemon racing jacket, would say he loved a guy with a mustache. That was the final nail in the coffin, with so many people being done with Ye after that. 2023 was then marked as a year where Ye was just going crazy. He married his former employee, Bianca Censori, and they started traveling the world together, with them often being photographed. There was even a huge headline when they were in Italy because of how Bianca was dressed that I won't be showing in this video. Ye wasn't down in the dumps though, as he started working on the new Yeezy collections, and a new album alongside Ty Dolla $ign was coming, Vultures 1. The rollout of Vultures being equally as controversial for the reason that it was oddly similar to a country that existed from the early 30s to the mid 40s. But fans started being more lenient with Ye, with droves of fans going to all of the listening parties. He was still packing stadiums, starting some sort of redemption arc for Ye in terms of music. Though his political opinions or views wouldn't change, he started making music again that fans were going insane for. He even gave Cardi his first #1 hit and the song of the summer, Carnival. Starting the TikTok Riz party. But people still didn't forgive Ye. Anthony Fantano even said that Vultures was unreviewable, since you couldn't separate the art from the artist. And there were several problematic lyrics within Vultures. It was also around this time that he was working with his protege, Playboi Carti, in the rollout of I Am Music, producing the song 2024 just a few months prior. Vultures was also supposed to have sequels in 2 and 3, most likely exploring similar themes. But one thing fans loved about Vultures was the low price point for its merch. $20 for every single piece, instead of the absurdly high prices that other artists were charging. That was mainly because Ye was out of the system that forced him to charge higher rates. And he even issued refunds from the old $200 Yeezy pods, giving people $180 in return. But a lot of people criticized the merch too, because of its quality, with a notable one being Kai Cenat, who Ye would crash out on. But there was something within the year that shook the entire world of hip-hop: the Kendrick Lamar and Drake beef, with Ye openly taking Kendrick's side.
I can't even think of a Drake line. Play J. Cole, get the pussy dry.
But instead of fans showing appreciation for Ye's efforts, they would clown him, saying he didn't contribute much to calling Drake out. Later in the year, he dropped Vultures 2. He even had listening parties for the album all throughout the world, from Goyang in Korea and Haikou, China. The Haikou show even had all the taxi drivers exclusively play Ye. And it was there where he'd announced his next album to be named Bully. Then, one of the worst years for Ye fans, and Ye in general, happened: 2025. It was in 2025 where Ye would defend someone who held notorious parties and advocated for him to be released. It was also this year where we would find out that Ye did some stuff with his cousin. and that he was interested in watching things on a chair. He was also caught using AI in his music and his videos, a huge downgrade from one of the greatest talents of all time. It was like Ye was gone, but a small light came. In an interview with Justin LeBoy, he looked normal, and there was one revelation in this interview that made fans realize something different about Ye since
of autism that I have, and autism takes you to a Rain Man thing.
A month after this interview, Ye's mental health would get even worse when his closest protege, Playboy Cardi, left him off his 5-year-long album, I Am Music, with Ye visibly expressing his frustration and pain with the whole thing, saying things about Cardi's baby mother, mainly because Cardi also dropped the bar about Ye's ex in the song Fine Shit, which then led Cardi to tell Ye to shut up, and Ye would even tweet that he loved Cardi ironically on the 1st of April. Then the 2H song dropped, which I shall not elaborate on. Ye then released another song dissing Cardi with Youngboy on it called Alive, which Cardi would quickly respond to saying, "This my song, lil' bruh."
I'm ready to trip. Niggas not ready for him. I'm the reason niggas sipping that.
There was a light on the other side of the tunnel, and Ye said he was done with being mean to specific groups, and it was looking very positive for his career direction. Though a few shows were canceled, Ye was in Asia performing. And at the same time, Cardi was having his Antagonist tour, which had to stop in Ye's hometown in Chicago.
I love you. Without you, I ain't gonna lie, bro. That nigga helped change my life, bro.
And this may have warmed Ye's heart so much that he made a return to performing as a surprise guest in Travis Scott's Circus Maximus tour. Because Ye was feeling overwhelming love again, decided that he was done being so hateful. On a faithful day, Ye visited a rabbi and took accountability for the things he said and done to them. The rabbi saying that if you do something wrong, you can regret it and be forgiven for it, with the rabbi hugging him and saying he was a very good man. And this new chapter came consequences, like the government of Brazil saying they'd arrest him if he made any negative comments like he used to. Ye nowadays is seen acting sorta normal. He did a street fashion interview and is on an apology tour. So for now, Ye is on his path to redemption. But we just have to wait and see if he really means it this time. I'm Murdoch, and that was the redemption of Kanye West.